Hello. Actually, nobody at this point because there's nobody else on the live stream. I'll see how this is going, whether people have forgot that clocks have gone forward last night. So I'm actually an hour earlier than I normally would be. But I'll keep streaming for now anyway. I do hope there are people that come and join me in here. So it's going to be fun. Right. First of all, happy Mother's Day out there to everybody, to all the mothers and that. I'll talk more a bit in a minute on that. I'll be speaking about my mother. But first of all, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping, do a bit of cleanup. First of all, happy birthday, Mayor Steve Bledsoe. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and how selfish of you to take away from your wife's special day. And secondly, more importantly, sorry, Steve, you are important, but this is more important to me personally. Happy birthday, happy second birthday to my granddaughter, Havana, who is 2 today and has gone to a safari park. And hopefully she's having a wonderful time there with her mother, her father, and everybody else who's gone with them. So happy birthday, Havana. Love you lots and miss you a lot as well. Okay, that's out the way. Still only me on the live stream at the moment, but I'll continue on. We're going to Mother's Day. This could be quite upsetting because when I was putting this together, I had a few tears in my eyes. Hello to my one person joining me. Hello, whoever you are at this point. I know it's Mother's Day, so I don't think we're going to be long on the stream tonight. I've got tissues with me because I've been doing a video. I'll explain. I'm going to show you the video. It's of my mother, so I want to share that for now. So I'm going to share that screen. For some reason, this video isn't. There it is. Right. There we go. That was a little video of my mother who been gone now 13 years. My mother was, like every mother, was very special to me. And she was the disciplinarian of the family. She was the matriarch of the family, kept everybody in line and kept everyone together. There's nothing against my dad. My dad was soft and things like that. But my mother was very special. We worked together at MOD St. Athan. We worked in the same office, and for a little while I was actually her boss. I was sorry, I just had a message. Yes, I was her boss. And then unfortunately in 2009, on the 3rd of July, she passed away suddenly. She had an aneurysm rupture on one of the major veins going into the brain, and it was something that was sudden to our family, and we all miss her lots. My mother was not the most, it's wrong to say not the most loving. She was disciplinarian. She had her moments, but but she had her moments where she would stick up for any member of our family, and that, and I've seen it many times. But she had this little wicked side to her, especially if you were a male member of the family going shopping with her. And I would just like to say, if you were a male member, if you went shopping with her, you always made sure you had underwear on, because my mother disappear around the shop while you're just walking around browsing, and she'd suddenly be behind you, and your trousers would come flying down, and then she'd run off, leave you standing there. If that didn't happen, she would quite often let out one of these horrible smelling farts and turn around and go and blame you in front of everybody and make it sound like, oh God, how disgusting was that, Luke? Or that. My mother had a wicked side. She was a wonderful person, but she took no stick from anybody. And I sadly, I miss you every day, Mum, and I wish you were here. So everybody who got your mum out there tonight, out there today, I'm glad for you, and I hope you have shown your mother the respect and the love that they deserve for what they've done for you. For those of us who mothers have sadly gone now, we never forget them. We don't love them any less. And they're always in our minds every day, especially on a day like today. So thank you. I'm going to get onto politics now. I'm going to come off the Mother's Day stuff. I'm wishing Stephen Bledsoe happy birthday, and my granddaughter for Havana happy birthday as well. If you didn't see that, I'll wait till later in the video. It's on the start of the live stream, so you can watch it back later. Anyway, let's get into a bit of politics. I haven't got anybody joining me this week. Probably, I've tried to get some new faces on, but with it being Mother's Day, it's going to be hard to get new faces on, which is completely understandable. I am looking to do groups of councillors now, standing in certain areas. So whether I would like to get, obviously, an independent and party members all coming on to chat, but party members don't really want to come on and chat. So I'm getting the independent groups at the moment. I'm looking to get Tim Thomas, Leanne T and Dyer, and Mark John, I think, for Unassailed St. Brides. That possibly could be happening next week. I've got to contact Tim and Mark, see if we can make that happen. So the same with the other groups. I want to do Porthcawl one. I want to do my Steg one. I'd like to do a Pencoed one. That I believe is going to be more difficult, but I'll see what I can do. I know I can't get Alex Williams on a Sunday. He's busy on a Sunday evening, and I apologise for that. Maybe I can do a separate live stream for Pencoed that involves during the week. So that's what I'm trying to focus on for the next run up to the election. So I'm going to move on now. We've had a lot of people submitting their papers, and a lot of people being confirmed this week that the papers have been accepted, and they are now no longer prospective candidates, but are candidates in areas. Congratulations to all of you who have been accepted, wherever you're from, independent parties or whatever, and good luck to you all, and I hope you'll go well. This is now the easy part. Well, the next easy part is election, is campaigning and talking to people. The hard part is if you become elected, and get on and help the people of your constituencies. I've got somebody asking it, saying that they may come on. Right, I've just got to work out how I'm doing this. Do apologise. Bear with me a second. Send. Right. Sorry, excuse me a second. I'm just going to send a link to a councillor who's going to join me. So for those of you who missed it, I will play the video that I did for my mother today for this stream. So I'll share that now. Just get it ready and up. Play. Oh, no, don't play yet. I haven't shared it yet. Dingbat. Right, share. Thank you. Sorry about that. Sent the link now to council who said they were going to join me. I've only got two on here. So congratulations to those who are now candidates, not prospective candidates, and we'll hear more coming over, being given that honour of being candidates over the next, up until I believe 5th of April is the last day to get papers in, and so probably a day or two after that you'll hear candidates. And then the full list of candidates will come out in every area, in every ward, for town community councils, and for BCBC. I will be publishing them on Political Hour website, and so you can see everybody who's standing in your areas. I'm going to bring in now a councillor who's decided to join me today. I'm surprised she is, so I'm going to welcome Councillor Amanda Williams, and happy Mother's Day, Amanda.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Apologies, I haven't got any makeup on. I've got a glass of Prosecco by my side because it's Mother's Day. And
you deserve it.
So I've put my feet up this evening, and I thought as you were on air, maybe I could join and talk about communities and what you can do in your community.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Hang on, I'll just sort out this view because it's not. I've got this big black line down the middle. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, I've got that.
Trying to get it so we're both like, it's not working. Anyway, yes, I saw the cake you posted earlier. My original, you said, shall I share this? And my original reply I wanted to put was, I don't think Just Eat will deliver it to me.
No.
it looked lovely. Did the kids make that?
No, I made that.
Oh, you made it for
myself.
Martin, buck up your ideas. Get the kids doing these things and help them.
Oh, he was out. In fairness, he was out on football duty.
Yeah, I did see his post this morning.
I was cooking Sunday dinner, and I was cooking for my mother and my two grandmothers. So no, they like their puddings as well. So I made a cake as well. But it's nice. It's lovely to have. I mean, my one grandmother, she's in her 80s and she's got cancer and she's been poorly throughout lockdown. So to have her over the house has been fantastic. She's not long recovering from her last lot of surgery. And my other grandmother is 98 this year. So
yes,
it's phenomenal to have her around and to come down. She's her story, if ever you want a story, she's got the best story of all. She ran off underage to join the war, Second World War, and joined the RAF. And she used to cook for the dam busters.
So she was WAF.
As they went off to their missions, she'd cook their breakfast. Off they'd go. She had no idea what they were doing, and a lot of her friends didn't come back. And after the war, then the king came and visited, and she cooked for the king as well. So.
Cool.
Fantastic story.
Oh, there are many stories. My grandparents used to tell me stories about my grandparents, both their families. They both came from their grandparents, my grandparents came from rich families, but these were like Romeo and Juliet families. They didn't get
Yeah.
on. And both their grandparents, same both on my grandfather's side, this is, both his grandparents left that life behind, moved from Somerset to South Wales. No money, and they just started working from there and set up a life in between Cardiff and Caerphilly somewhere, and eventually they lived in Cardiff. I've still got family members that are still in Somerset from that side of the family who have a country mansion and things like that. It just didn't happen to my side of the family.
No.
But there are many amazing stories, and I encourage anybody to sit down and listen to them. My dad had stories, my granddad, my nan. My granddad was in was part of Dunkirk in the 1940s. When that was evacuated, he was part of the evacuation. And it's amazing, these stories, and how much history there is, and people don't often listen to that history. It just starts to fade away. But we've got people like Miss Reese, I can't pronounce the first name, I think, is it Louvain?
Louvain. Oh,
Louvain Reese, who keeps history alive, keep doing the good work. And I'm looking forward.
Yes, the research she puts into everything is phenomenal. The information she brings out. And you ask her, because we've got a lot of history in Coity. I've got a lot of history in my garden. I've got an Anderson shelter in my garden. I've got a 400-year-old coach house. I've got the old village bakery. I've got the piggery. Well, I did have the piggery until my husband started trying to do some gardening, and we have the remains of the piggery now. But you don't realise it's there. And you look at Park Farm in Coity and the burial sites. That Louvain did fantastic work.
Yeah.
There, looking into it, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, she put a post out this week about should she write a book on the history of Bridgend, and I think she should.
Yeah.
I'd happily buy that book. I'd happily read it, because I do like the history of Bridgend, and I know
I was lucky. I did A-level. No, I did GCSE. Sorry, not A-level. I did GCSE history, and my history, we did the Second World War, and my history exam GCSE was on Second World War. My grandfather worked in Island Farm. He was a cobbler, and you wouldn't think a cobbler. He went in and used to repair the German officers' shoes. So he knew all about the escape. He had all the information. So when I did my history GCSE exam, I sent in this folder with all of the photos and everything, and it was like, wow. And my history teacher wrote a book on Bridgend, and to do with the war and the camp in Island Farm. And I bought it, and it's so fascinating. You just don't realise. And living in Coity, you've got the castle opposite. The amount of history there is.
Well,
it'd be a shame to lose it.
As your area is expanding, there's even more history. Like the oldest ironworks used to be in Litchard. You've got the ancient burial grounds in Coity,
and people don't realise it's there. It's a little hole in the middle of a field.
Yeah, the Warrens as well. You've got them. It's the history, and unfortunately, it's just being lost. The old, what is now Bridgend Police headquarters, was the old ammunition factory for the Second World War. That's where the site was.
Well, that's why my if you look at the 8Xs, and the arsenal, that's why my grandmother ran off and joined the RAF when she was not old enough, because she was she didn't want to go to the arsenal to work, because she said, well, everyone's hair there turns pink, and you were more likely to be killed there than actually go into war, which is incredible. But my grandmother lied, and she only told us, she's 98, and she only told us on her 90th birthday. Well, she's 97, almost 98 in July. She told us on her 90th birthday that just before, she said, I've got a confession. I've never had my war medals because I lied about my age. So I've been too embarrassed to ask for them since, because I'd have to put the wrong date of birth on again to get them. So my father wrote a letter, and so she had her war medals,
Oh, that's
and then
good.
Gary Thomas, who was one of the Bridgend councillors, was mayor at the time, and he presented them to her on her 90th birthday party, and it was lovely. But it was a secret she kept.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things people did during the war that they kept secret because
Yeah.
you
Her
didn't.
mother
But
never forgave her for it. She was on the front page of the newspaper with the king, and my great grandmother burnt it.
yeah,
So
but
we have no record of it now. We have no evidence.
no. Well, I'm sure you could probably find if you knew what newspaper it was from. They could try their archives.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. People back then, they did a lot of heroic things. They did sacrifice a lot, and most of them don't want to talk about it because all it is to them is a period of history that they don't want repeating because they had to do things that
And
nobody
it is.
should have to do.
It's awful. And you see what we're going through now with Ukraine and that, and you just think, have we not learnt? Has the world not learnt?
But
And the sacrifices that have gone on, and it's awful. But again, I suppose as well, they're a private generation. There's no internet, there's no selfies. I mean, these days, if you haven't got a selfie stick showing that you've been somewhere, you haven't been there. And that's another one. I just think, why? And that's why I wanted to come on to talk about community events and what you can do for your community, because we've lived here now for 17 years. And when we moved into our village, we moved here, we moved to Coity. I met Martin, and he was living in Cardiff. I grew up in Litchard. They'd moved to Brackler, and the house became available in Coity, and we said we'll move in together, and we were thrown together, and that's it. And we said, well, we're living in a beautiful village like this. We want to get involved with the community. What's there for us to get involved with? And I thought, rather than the political thing, let's talk about what you can do for your communities and what goes on and what people don't realise. There are a lot of people in every community that do an awful lot that nobody knows about.
Yeah, well, I'll mention one for the Coity area. Bill Daniel.
Oh, fantastic!
He does a lot of work, and I hear of him through the community council quite a lot because of the work they've done. Does it keep Coity tidy? I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, they set up the litter picking, and he's just one of the nicest people I think I've ever met, ever. He's just so nice, so positive, so lovely, will help anyone with anything. Him and his wife, lovely, lovely. Always offered, if with Jam in the Castle and things, do you want a hand if you need anything? When we had the snow before, I was driving doctors back and forth the hospital because I've got a 4x4. He was doing it. He was getting up early to take residents out to take them to their shifts, and he does it, but he does it quietly. He doesn't post it everywhere, and he gets on with things. And he's got they tidy up the whole. He started with Park Derwin, then he spread to the whole of Coity. Then he's gone to I think he's moved across to Litchard now. And I think recently someone from Wild Mill has contacted him. So he's expanding, and he goes out, fair play, no matter what the weather, picking things up. If there's rubbish dumped at the common, he's up there picking it up. And I'm chair of governors at Coity Primary, and he's vice chair as well. And I nominated him for vice chair because I just thought he's the perfect person. He leads all the eco groups. We've got, he set it up. You can recycle your Pringles pots outside Coity, and it raises money for the school. And he's forever doing things and willing to go. We go on school trips all the time. And he's always there with a smile on his face. All the children know him. All the children love him. So that's one example of somebody who does things in the community. But every community's got different groups. They've got WI, they've got the church who do an awful lot. They'll have community centres. They'll have different groups. And
in Brackler, the resident group that cleans up there, run by Carrie and Jackson, or was run by Carrie and Jackson. So it's good to see that, and they advertise when they're doing litter picks, obviously, but they don't go shouting about it. And I think that's part of it. And it's like this week, I'm glad to see with the tree planting, Tremaines Primary School, the children there have been rightly, it's been shouted about that they've been helping plant trees, which is amazing, which could lead on to something else from here.
Well, there's little groups like the Rotary Club Bridgend. They're planting fruit trees in different schools. They're going to be over the next couple of weeks planting fruit trees in Coity Primary. They come along and they do things, and people don't know that they do that.
No,
they help, and you get, if you're a parent and you're in a school, the PTA, or in Coity it's called CPSFA, Coity Primary School Friends Association, because we didn't want it just be for parents, it was for everyone in the community. They all do a lot, and parents will see that because it's all in the newsletters and on social media and that. But there's an awful lot of other groups that help schools who don't go online, and they don't they don't plan what they do, and you don't see a lot of the effort that goes into different areas.
They don't seek out the recognition, and I think this was part of the argument about coming to an election cycle every year. You start seeing it from everywhere. People, oh, look what we're doing, we're out doing this. But are you doing it during that 5-year cycle? Are you doing it? If you're doing it during that 5-year cycle, great, shout about it. If you're going to shout about it in election.
Don't get me wrong. You've got to think, if somebody moves into an area, 17 years ago, I moved into this area and I joined. If you move into that area and you start living there and you think, oh, actually, I'm going to stand for election and I'm going to do this and that, then they wouldn't have been doing it over the past how many years?
No, I think we know.
But I think, and if you live in that area, I think there's an argument, and you've got to defend those who've recently moved into the area and want to do good, because it's their first outing and it's them at the start of what they want to do. What gets me is those who don't live in an area and say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to resolve this, I'm going to save this, I'm going to put all this effort in. But where were you before? Well, because you were still living where you were before. You don't live in this area. What are you going to do? Why do you care about this area, not the area you live in?
It's not just those people who are just moved to the area and just standing, or even just decide to stand because they want to make a difference, not been part of it, the political machine for 5 years, or being a councillor or an MS for 5 years, who turns up and during election time, oh, look, we're picking up litter, we're planting trees, we're making this, we're doing this. If they're doing it during the 5 years, shout about it for the whole 5 years, including the election cycle. If you don't shout about it during the 5 years before the election cycle, don't shout about it during the election cycle, because it looks a certain way as if you're doing things. That is my problem. And then when people criticize, where were you for 5 years? Oh, we've been doing it. Oh, we've been doing it. But okay, well, why now at this election time you're saying, oh, look, we're out today picking up litter? Classic example, Wildmill was one. There are many groups out there that do it for no recognition. They don't want recognition. That Bill Daniels one, I'm glad on Coity High we have awarded him Citizenship Award 1 year. He deserves credit he gets, but he doesn't want that credit. I'm going to
have to put my glasses on a minute. This is where I'm showing my age now. I try to keep them off. But somebody else has asked if they can join the link.
Oh,
can I send them it?
Yes.
It's a prospective councillor.
Send the link by all means to them. They can join. Anybody can join at any time.
Sarah Philpin would like to join. Can I send her a link?
Yes, you can.
Right. So if I copy the one that you've sent me, and I can send it on to her now. Sorry, I'm behind the screens. I've got my old woman glasses on. My husband hates them.
Don't worry. I've got glasses, and we are the same age, Amanda. You're forgetting that.
Oh. Right, let me just send it to them. Yeah, so I've sent it on. I'll take these glasses off now.
I'll keep mine on. I was putting mine on in solidarity, but I'll keep mine on.
My husband thinks, so did you watch the Chernobyl program?
No, I don't.
Oh, well, we watched it. We don't watch much TV, but we watched the Chernobyl program. My husband reckons I look like one of those from Chernobyl, one of the scientists with my glasses. So yeah. But anyway, when I was talking about community events, we joined the Village Association in Coity many years ago, and we got involved with that. And then, as you always get with different events and different groups, there's different opinions. And when you've got different age groups as well, sometimes you've got different thinking about how you want to move forward. So we left there and we set up something called Coity Festivals. And with that, we took the younger sort of events. So in Coity, we set up, we do the Easter egg hunt normally every year in Coity Castle, and we've been doing it for years. Jam in the Castle, the first one was 2012. We did concerts in the castle before that, but the first jam in the castle was 2012. It was going to be our 10th year this year. We're still in negotiations with Cadw. They've said we can do it, but they've got scaffolding up around the gate at the moment, so we can't fit our stage into the castle unless the scaffolding's moving, and they don't believe it's going to be moved before any of the dates we'd be able to do it. So we're still looking at that. We do spirits in the castle. It's fantastic having a castle on your doorstep. Easter egg hunt we normally charge, I think we've always charged £1, and it just covers the cost of the egg. The spirits in the castle is always free, and we use the cadets and we allow them to have buckets so they can get all the money that's collected as donations. And then we normally, outside the pub, we do like all the, I'll make loads of jellies with toys buried in them, and children have got to put their face in, or donuts hanging from strings, and they've all got to be involved. And it's just things like that. And I've done in the past, I've done treasure hunts and hidden parts of bones throughout the whole of Coity, and children have to go along and get the legs, the arms, the head, the body, and come back to me with a full skeleton. And then they get some sweets, which we pay for as Coity Festivals. But the best one is Jam in the Castle. I mean, Jam in the Castle, we did it 2012 was the first year, and we broke even. And when people don't know about an event, it's hard, and you'd sell tickets on the day and you're not sure about the weather. And then the first year we actually sold out was when we had the Blims, and I went to school with a lot of the Blims members, and they were fantastic. It was just after they'd done the rugby song as well for Wales, for the Six Nations. And they came, and it absolutely hammered down. I've never seen rain like it. It was probably biblical sort of rain you're talking about. It was hammering down. Everyone was in their little gazebos, soaking wet, but it was a sellout, and it was fantastic. And we made profits, and we've never lost any money. We've made profits and steady profits, and then we've made an awful lot since. And it's meant we've been able to give to a number of different charities, Velindra, Bridgend Food Bank. We've given to, I'm just trying to think, meningitis, kidney transplant, and also supported local families and local children. We've supported a number of local families, and we've purchased equipment for disabled children who've been able to then have this equipment and have better lives. And we've done an awful lot with that. But it's fantastic. The bands come together and they perform for a nominal fee and a couple of beer vouchers. And, you know, they give up their time and everything. Is fantastic. And we're always grateful to them. We have organisers. We have somebody called Gareth who organises the bands, does it for nothing. And he does all the hard work of getting them all in and the lineup and everything, you know, and we do. And you rely on a number of people. We've given, I think the biggest sum we gave, £5,700 or something, to Swansea Hospital, to their cancer area, where
we have a new guest.
I just finished this what I'm saying, and I'll let you introduce her if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine.
My friend Beth in the village, she passed away, and I used to take her down for a radiotherapy, and we bought them new chairs so that the patients would be more comfortable, and that was fantastic. And so, you know, from little events with a couple of us, it's gone into massive events, and you know, the community comes together, and it's lovely. But the best event that I haven't mentioned, I love Jam in the Castle, is the street parties. And we started the big lunch so many years ago, and it's where we put all the tables and chairs out, just normally outside the Six Bells pub, and we close the road off, and we have picnics, and we have games, and we'll do some quizzes and things, and the whole community comes out. You bring a plate, you share, and you sit down, and it's normally in June, and everyone meets everyone, because the problem is, we haven't been able to do it obviously since COVID. It's been a couple of years, but in the village there's an awful lot of elderly people who have no access. There's no buses anymore, services are cut, and so the only people that get to see is physically when they're out and about. And it's so lovely to bring people in to that environment and be able to get together and meet people that you haven't met before, and bring them out of, if they feel isolated, you've suddenly got people they can speak to, and you make friends. And I made some of my best friends at those events. So I would say, just to wind it up on my events, is if you've got some spare time, have a look around where you live, because there are organisations and there are groups who do an awful lot for people. And maybe if you've got a couple of hours spare, give that time over to help those organisations and those groups, because it really is worthwhile and fulfilling.
Thank you, Amanda. We've got a brand new face to the channel. Amanda said it was prospective candidate, but it's no longer prospective, is it? It's now officially candidate for Kevin Glassward on Lansdowne Community Council. Correct?
Yeah.
Somewhere where just over 4 years ago, I stood when the vacancy came up, and I wasn't far off of getting on there either. So good luck to you, Sarah, and welcome to the channel.
Thank you.
It's been a long time. This is the first time we're actually meeting or properly talking, I suppose it is.
Yeah, I have been watching the past few weeks to sort of give me an idea of what's expected.
It's just be yourself and do the best for your community. That's all anybody can ask. That's all anybody can ask. They don't expect you to lie. They don't expect you to perform miracles.
No.
So just do the best you can on your own conscience, not on what other people on the council are telling you to do. You do what's best for your constituents that you're there to represent.
Yeah.
And that's it, isn't it, Amanda? Really, you just do what they want you to do.
It is. And a lot of people appreciate those who are willing to put their names out there and their faces out there and do it. Because a lot of people want to make a difference, but they don't want to go that extra mile, either because of commitments or they feel unsure in that. And so, you know, anyone who does this, puts their hand up and says, I'll have a go, and does it, you get an awful lot of respect from the public.
Yeah, I think the main reason I wanted to do it, being I teach in a secondary comprehensive, is seeing a lot of the mental well-being of our teenage children, and the fact that obviously the youth service in Regent, how well,
there isn't one really.
There isn't one, no.
Not really, not anymore.
I didn't realise that, you know, it was only the past year, I think I realised all youth clubs and everything had gone. And working in a school, I'm currently a head of year 11, so it's a bit of a pressure year. I've been head of year for 20 years, and I don't think I've never come across so many mental health issues with pupils in that time, and it's frightening.
I will say not all youth clubs are closed. The ones that are community run or privately run are still open. It's the ones that from the council. Now, I used to work the youth service. I was based at Pencoed Youth Club. I did some work at Brinterian, and I was there to do the young inspectors, people who attended youth clubs. We were training them to inspect the youth clubs of how they were doing, which was perfect. Never came to fruition. Mine, then after training them all, they never went with it. and a couple of years later they tried to merge with the Vale, the youth service. Well, they did merge the youth services with the Vale, and everything practically disappeared in Bridgend. There are a few youth workers still. My niece and her boyfriend worked for a while after youth clubs closed. I'm not sure if they both still are. My sister used to be a manager of the youth service for 15 years. And they just got rid of it. We had an excellent youth service in Bridgend from the late 90s to the mid 2010s. And people like to blame, oh, it's austerity and austerity. We've seen an example yesterday. Bridgend Council turned off all lights that were not necessary for 1 hour for Earth Day. If they're not important, they're not necessary. Why are they on anyway? We need to be saving money.
If you drive past the Roo after it's shut, all the lights are on.
They should be off. And I think
every night they're on after it's closing. Every night you'll see it's all lit up bright.
Well, the council offices are lit up at night partially, aren't they? Or they used to be. I don't know if they still are.
I've seen lights. I've seen lights on there.
I don't understand. For special occasions, I understand lighting up buildings like for the Queen's Jubilee or for VE Day or things like that. You don't need to do it normally. Keep streetlights. Streetlights are important because people, not just females, but young people, adults, men, and that walk, and they need lights to be visible.
But that's the thing that gets me now as well, is the focus on, I'm a female, and I've made some pretty dodgy decisions where I've walked in the past where it's been dark, but you think I'd be fine. But it's always the assumption that if you're female, and I've got a teenage son, and I still see that now in school, that it's, oh, watch the boys, how they behave with the girls. And it's still that, there's still that boys are bad, girls are good sort of mentality as well. And there's still and I get so frustrated because it's not the case. Everyone is equal. And I think, and I get frustrated, that when it's always, oh, as long as the female's safe, but everyone should be safe and everyone should be. And I see, and when you talk about mental health, I've got a 12-year-old who's almost 13 and a 14-year-old who's almost 15. And you've got that side of things where we are still in that whole old mindset of, sometimes in school, if something goes on and one of the girls says something, oh, well, you can't respond because you're a boy. And I'm thinking, no, you're a person. They're a person. You can't do that. And I think you've got that mental health issue that is still in the background. But then you look at new developments and you look at what's there for those age children. They put in swing parks, they put in swings and slides and everything, but they don't put anything for anyone who's over 10 years old. And so that there's like a forgotten generation who's still following old rules as well.
Well, that was the case for Weybridge and Canterbury Council back in the late 1990s, started doing the provision of youth club, building up more youth clubs. I always used to go to the old Nostalgia Youth Club years ago. I think I went there till I was about 24, mind, which you can.
Very popular.
Which I enjoyed. And it got kids off the streets. And it was because of a lot of, that was the time when ASBOs started to come in, and there was a big thing on ASBOs in papers and everywhere. So Bridgend Canterbury Council did fantastic, and it was a Labour-led council in pushing more and more money into youth clubs, into youth service, into getting kids somewhere to go at night or the evening, something to do. Because, okay, back then we didn't have the amounts of technology we have today, but kids need social interaction. Otherwise, the development socially starts getting stunted and start growing. That was a big problem with the pandemic, where they were socially separated from the people. You can only do so much by phone or on video chat. You have to be and meet people because you've got to get the cues, the social cues and things like that. And I agree with you, Amanda. It's when everything's talked about equality. They're talking about only from one side of equality, not from both sides of equality. Yes, there are things, but you've got to look, especially for kids, they only look at it at one side. That what can we do to protect girls? What we can do to help girls? And very little is how can we help young men? Because one of the leading causes for the deaths of young men is suicide. It's higher than young girls, and it's not recognised. Anyway, I've rambled a bit. Sarah,
No, you're
would
right.
you like-
No, you are
Yeah.
right. I'm looking at having, I don't know, am I allowed to mention things on here like lads and dads? I've just mentioned them.
Yeah, you can, but you can't join.
No, I know. But I'm looking at having them come in and do some work with me and the boys in school so that when they leave, I always worry that they're going to leave us and then there's nothing for them. That we're not that support, So when they leave and go, is there something there for them? So trying to get people in already just to say, look, if you ever you need anything, we're here. There's our face. You meet us. Just to stop anything
Yeah,
maybe from happening, in their later teens and early 20s. It's
yeah. They are. I forgot. Young men are quite forgotten, and it's not just young men, but older men like me, middle-aged men like me. We seem to be the reverse of what equality is for women in getting into work and being thing. It's pushed to one side, especially when it comes to mental health. Men are pushed more to side, but more men actually end up committing suicide than women do. So
I think there's still that old thing that men are tough, women are weak. I think that's still there. And I think I see that in council because I get ridiculed and laughed at, and I know it's because I'm a female. If I was a male saying what I say, I don't think I'd have as many laughs. And quite often I've been spoken to as if, oh, your husband's making your decisions. And anyone who knows me knows my husband doesn't make my decisions. If anyone makes any decisions in my house, it's me. Don't tell him that. But no, but it is that assumption that I'm a little woman in the corner who's going to do as I'm told. And the only reason I'm shouting out and standing up is because I'm being told to.
And I find that attitude quite funny that you do see it, and we've seen it quite recently on the one of the meetings that happened recently. It was very condescending, but not just to you, but I've got to say to Alex Williams, Tim Thomas, and Matthew Voicey as well. But it's that old attitude of going, you shouldn't really be here, you should be in the kitchen or at home looking after the kids.
Yeah.
But then they do
I'm
this
doing
big
that as well. I'm doing that. I'm at home looking after the kids. I'm in the kitchen doing everything else, and I'm turning up to 100% of the meetings, and I've got one of the top referrals. So there we go. Women can multitask. We're fab. We can do it all.
But as I was going to say, then they do this big shout, we want more women in politics, we want more women councillors, but then they treat them like they shouldn't really be there. And that's what I find very contradictive. And I think we should have the range of councillors from all different backgrounds, because that's when people start getting isolated and left out, when they're not thought about because there's not people there.
But we should be encouraging a lot of younger councillors too.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at as well, we're talking about mental health and we're talking about children and youngsters, and there's not much there for them. And if you look at a lot of the councillors, a lot of them are retired as well. We should be attracting younger people with younger thoughts, not because you want to be a chair of something, as I've been told by a couple of people, because it's paying your pension. You should be bringing young blood in. And I totally agree about the fact that there's not enough for youngsters, and there's not enough to bring youngsters into. Yes, okay, we're now allowing younger people to vote, but there's nothing there for them. There's no support. There's no, like you say, during lockdown, they could run around the Coity, my kids. They could run around and do some running or go in the garden and that. But they couldn't go anywhere else because there's nothing for them. There's a forgotten age, I think, from as soon as they hit secondary school, they're forgotten until they leave school and become adults. There's this whole gap that there is nothing for children, and yet people criticise them because they're hanging around street corners, they're going into town, they're hanging around Newbridge Fields or something. What else is there for them to do?
Well,
They put in Park Derwent, they've put in 5 swing parks. That's fine, that's fantastic. But swing parks are not for teenagers. And then they're criticised if they're hanging around in the swing park because that's for little children. And you just think, what? Where can they go?
You know.
Yeah. We've just had Steve saying good evening all, enjoying listening to you all in the garden. I did say at the start of the program and wished you happy birthday, Steve. I said it wasn't important as my granddaughter's 2-year-old it's her 2nd birthday today, so it wasn't as important because I had a picture of her. I didn't have one of you, Steve. Sorry.
Which Steve? Which Steve has got a birthday today?
Bledsoe.
Oh, is he? Oh,
yeah.
Happy birthday,
stealing
Steve.
his stealing his wife's special day. How inconsiderate of him.
I didn't know it was his birthday.
Yes, it was his birthday today. Anyway, yeah, I think when kids get to basically what is secondary education, we're starting to move. I don't think schools are. I'm not saying schools are doing this, but I think the local education authority are doing this. That kids, like in America, they're expected to find their own extracurricular activities, what they're going to do, and the provisions aren't there. They're supposed to go out and find them. Instead, at the start of every year, we've got this happening in some areas of the county. Who's interested in this? There should be lists, and people should be able to find ways to transport between different areas. As I said before, I wanted to do a Bridgend Youth Olympics every year. That's gone off again because I had my breakdown again. And hopefully one day I can get started on that and get doing that, because I think that's something that will be great for the area every year, because I want to do it through community councils and people representing the area that they live in. So people from Kevin Glass Hall, Alliston Community Council send a team every year and they compete together. They stay together in a little village over 3 days where kids can get and interact with each other throughout the county. So, yeah, we can do that. But I think the local education authority, I'm not saying schools are doing this. I think it's further higher up, probably towards Welsh Government, that they're looking for an American style that you go out and find your own extracurricular activities that you do, rather than providing or finding or even telling you what's out there to do, because you've got to go find everything yourself.
Some activities are quite expensive as well.
Yes.
And they're not cheap, you know, if you're talking swimming lessons or things like that. And this is where youth clubs did come in handy, because it wasn't as expensive. It got kids out there talking, it got them out there playing some football, listening to some music, even just sitting and chatting to their friends, where they don't get much chance in school. After school, they either go to the streets or they go to somebody's house. But then the person whose house they go to, they're like, oh, come to my house. They want to go somewhere different. They want to be able to, you know, if we're as adults, if we're fed up, we go to the pub. And there's nothing better than going to the pub and having a chat with your friends, you know, and getting it off your chest. But they haven't got anywhere like that to go and just release with their friends.
No, and they don't. In youth clubs, they didn't just focus on the everyday things like sport or chatting, or there was informative sessions in there with what you can do with your future, childcare education, and further on beyond that, there was sex education in youth clubs and talking to people, and you had youth workers there that would, if you had a problem, and they see quite regularly, and they can tell. Teachers don't always have the time, because you've got 30 pupils, even more in your class, and it's hard to, you're under a lot of pressure, whereas youth workers can take that time. Come on, come and have a word with me. What's up? If you want to talk to me, I'm here. And that's what youth workers should be there for. We had street teams that used to go out around areas talking to the kids that didn't really want to go to youth clubs, seeing how they were. You had you had the pastors going out and talking to kids on the street who don't not everybody wants to go to youth club. We know that. We're not blind and think, well, we'll put youth clubs there, every kid's going to go there. We know that's not going to happen. But if there's no youth clubs there, no kids are going to go there. There's only one place two places they can go, home or out on the streets and cause, not necessarily deliberately cause trouble, but people get irritated when they make too much noise, especially elderly people who are in bed a lot earlier than most people. They don't want a bunch of kids hanging out their street when they're trying to get to bed early, or they're not well, or something like that. So there does need to be a big provision of youth, and I'm glad somebody is doing it.
I think
We've
schools,
spoken with Alison.
I think schools are doing a lot more, and they're doing it voluntarily because teachers are staying on and giving up their own time to provide after school clubs. And they've moved not just the sports. I know the kids, my boys could do film club and other things and that. But sometimes you see as a child, you'll see the teachers as the authority, and you want the youth clubs because they're there as a friend. You're not there because you have to be there. You're there because you choose to be there, and it gives that release. And I mean, I'm chair of governors in primary school, and I'm a governor in a comprehensive school, and so I get to meet an awful lot of children. And I've seen sometimes summer holidays children wandering because they've been thrown out the house. Right, out you go now. You come back as soon as it starts to get dark. And there are children everywhere like that, and they've got nowhere to go because these clubs have been closed down. There's nothing for those children to do. And if they're 11, 12 years old or 16, 17 years old, to me, they're still children and they still need somewhere to go. And I think there is a real need to support these children. Otherwise, we're going to be paying for it through the local authority for a start as they get older, because they haven't had that support. But they deserve that chance. They deserve that support so they can live their lives the best way they can be. And it's so upsetting when you see children wandering, hungry, and have been left out through the whole day with nothing to do. And you just think, where do they turn? Where do they go? It's heartbreaking.
That's one thing I could never really understand. Okay, the youth system used to do every summer. They used to go to Bibblings, just outside Monmouthshire, for camping hot, take kids camping, canoeing, hiking, and all the stuff there. But during the holidays, when arguably youth clubs were needed more, they were always closed during the summer holidays at night. And I think that was when they were needed more. When, okay, kids are going to go on holiday, but not everybody can afford to go on holiday every year. Or that I said, can't. I haven't had a proper holiday in God knows how long. I haven't taken my son away in God knows how long. But he goes away with his mother every couple of years. But what are kids supposed to do during the summer holidays? My son does drums on a Wednesday evening down on Bridgend Industrial Estate. There's a skate park there as well. Ashmore's. Yeah.
I've been on a school trip in the week.
But it's not an easy place to get to. There's no buses that go there. There's no buses that go near. So it's parents having to supply transport, and they're not really as cheap. My son is lucky enough, he uses what he gets from the government because he's got autism to pay for his drum lessons every week, which that's what he wants to do. So we take him down. It's just the added expense because I come from Cummer to pick him up in Porthcawl to take him to Bridgend Industrial Estate and then do all the same back. It just needs to be better focused provision in areas that's more accessible, either by public transport or even just walking. And there needs to be more of it as well.
Yeah.
Why not work with these private companies like Ashmore's, like thing? If you can get this card through a school or a youth service system, you get a discount on how much it costs to go in.
BCBC do put on summer schemes, and they have done in Coity before, and they've put in the summer scheme for the primary age children, and they've had clubs there and the 4G pitch in Coity for children up to 11 to go. But the older children are forgotten. And it's
Yeah,
those older children who are missing out. They don't have, and there are so many of them who don't have supporting families or friendship groups. And you just think, what's happening to those children? Because they are our young adults, and we should be doing everything we can to nurture them and to get them ready to become, because they are our next generation.
yeah. But I will say those summer play schemes, BCBC don't fund them. They've got to be funded from outside. Quite often, community councils do.
Yeah.
Coity does every year. We didn't last year, because of pandemic, or the year before. And the year before was when we were looking to actually expand it into not just Coity, into Litchard as well. But because of pandemic, it didn't get the go ahead. Everything had to shut. So, but that is something that Coity will continue to look to do in the
But
future.
BCBC are pushing it to seek funding from community councils, but I think they should be looking at the older children as well, and looking at what groups or what businesses or what resources there are out there to support the older children too. Because even though they're not funding it, and I know I've had several meetings about it all, there's an awful lot of money they spend on the marketing of these.
Yeah.
With all the flyers that go out to all of the children. So if you think 400 and odd flyers went out in Coity, they market it, they do all of that, their team are working on it. There's an awful lot of money spent within the local authority, as well as the funding of the actual, which is about £3,500–4,000, I believe. But they still forget. They don't look at, well, what can we do for the older children?
I can tell you, I grew up in Stafford, in England, not far from Birmingham or Wolverhampton. During the summer, they used to put on what they called a play scheme, and what it was every year, I think just after Christmas, all the kids in every school from a certain age, I think it was about 8 or 9, and then up to sixth form, would get a list of trips that the council were putting on every year, whether it was to Alton Towers, Gulliver's World, or the Sea World, or wherever it was, or badminton competitions and football competitions and things like that throughout various schools in Stafford. And all you had to pay, as long as you could pay for the ticket to get in, if you weren't working, if you were on means, you got an even bigger discount. But as long as you could pay for the ticket to get in, they wouldn't charge. The transport would be paid for by the council, and that's what they did for years. I don't know whether they do it now, but that's what happened when I was growing up. I went on many trips. I went to Alton Towers several times, Bristol Zoo, Donington Park, and it's amazing the things you can do. But nowadays, it just seems to be, we've got the younger generation up to 11 before they start secondary school. Will help them, and then after that, you're on your own. It's unfortunate because it falls onto a lot of teachers to try and plug that gap, and there's only so much teachers can do. There's only so many after-school projects you can actually do as teachers, and they can't always afford the funding for it. And I think this needs to be looked at again with BCBC.
Yeah, I'm sure, Sarah, you would have seen as well, since the pandemic, the amount the children missed out on and how well-being has been really affected, hasn't it?
The waiting list to see a counsellor in schools, and that's where youth clubs could be a massive benefit, where you've got lead workers and the youth workers working with these pupils after school, because we can't fit everybody in now,
No.
and there's just it's going to hit us for years. This is this can't be fixed overnight. What we're dealing with, it's like I said, we are, as a head of year, the pastoral side is horrific at the moment.
And
dealing
no doubt,
with well-being.
The pressure of exams as well, having not done exams for so many years and suddenly thrown back into having to do exams with no support, and Welsh Government saying, no, you'll do exams this year. I'm terrified for, my son is doing his GCSEs, and I fear for those poor children who are
The
now
yeah.
thrown into this position that they now have to sit exams, having had none for my son's last full year in school before he's in year 10 now was year 7.
That's right. Yeah, because the
Never
current
sat an
year
exam.
was
Now
year
he's
8.
doing GCSEs.
Oh, it is, you know, and they are feeling it. They you know, even you're good kids who normally, you know, work hard and they are stressing now because they can feel the pressure. And obviously we're stressed as teachers because we're not sure what to expect, and you're trying to give as much support as you can, but unlike previous years, obviously they've got to sit the exams now this year. So it is quite difficult.
Right. I'm just
Sorry, I got children shouting in the background and noise in the garden, so I don't know what's going on. I'm assuming there's somebody dealing with it.
they're being kids, which
But
we,
yeah, but
we
that's
should let them
my
be
fear.
kids.
As a governor as well, that's the first thing we're told in comprehensive school is how on earth are these children going to get through these next few years of exams, having not had exams for the last 3 years, and all of a sudden it's no. We're not even going to recognise that safeguarding concerns are up substantially in every school, and we're talking about primary schools and secondary schools. And let's remember that if you're under year 6, so any year 5 or under children do not get BCBC counselling anyway. They're too young. They have to go through their GP surgery, and getting an appointment with a GP at the moment is very difficult. And yet to go through through CAMS or anything like that, if you've got if you need support, you're just not going to be seen for a couple of years at least. And then they're going on to comprehensive school, and then all of a sudden they've got to sit these exams, and they're being told, don't worry, the pandemic's over. Just go ahead and do your exams as you normally would with no support. I think we are absolutely going to, I fear what's going to happen. I'm really terrified for these poor children and their mental health. Now, my background is law, and I've worked for the NHS before I left, and then I became a counsellor. And I dealt with an awful lot of the Bridgend suicide cases. And I'm fearful of what's going to happen. And I think we need to make sure the support is in here for these children, because they are all children. I don't care. As soon as you're 16, in my eyes, they're still children to me.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
While they're in school, they are children, and we are not giving them the support. And I think we as parents, we as counsellors, we as teachers, we as community counsellors, borough counsellors, council leaders, we should all be going to Welsh Government and saying our children deserve better and we need more support. And we need to be there for our children, because otherwise the stress on them at the moment is unimaginable. I don't think people realise how much stress is on our comprehensive children at the moment.
Right.
They're not. The problem I find is, I think with lowering the voting age, some people think it's great. Personally, I don't. I'm not one who's in favour of lowering it to 16. That when kids are 16, they're going to say, right, you're no longer children anymore because you can vote. You can do this. You can do that. You're an adult. Go out, be in the world. And I'm scared of that, because when you're 18, you're still classed as a child till you're 18, and then after that, you're classed as a youth till 25. And that's where there's a lot of drop off in what support going. And I'm worried now with the voting age being 16. Ministers in government can go, well, they're adults now. They're at 16, they can vote. So they can vote, they can go off to war, they can do this, they can do that. They don't need our help anymore. And I'm worried. They still do. You still need that help. Especially
I think
after the pandemic.
My son's 13, he'll be 14 in July. When he could go out and vote, he watches the news, and I think young people deserve that. I think they don't get enough credit sometimes at how grown up they are, but yet we also need to remember that they can do these things and they can do them well, but we also need to support them. And I think, you know, you have to look at both sides of it, because I know my son, my 14-year-old, he's watched the news, he searches on Google, he sees what's going on, and he knows what's going on in Ukraine and that, and he's got his own opinions, and he does all that. But again, he's also only 14, and he's doing his GCSEs. He's had his first actual test that goes towards his GCSEs, even though he's only in year 10. And he needs that support around him as well. So he needs to be recognised that he's, you know, growing up, and we've got to give him some movement, but we've also got to support him. But my biggest concern when it comes to, I think, as soon as a child leaves primary school, I think that's when the first thing is throwing them out to the wolves. Because if you think, I live in Coity, and I've got children now who are living in Park Derwyn and Coity Village and that, who are in this little bubble of year 5 and year 6. They can walk to school for a little bit, which is only just down the road, because you can't you can't get into Coity unless you live 0.4 kilometers away from the school, because it's so oversubscribed. So they're not walking far, these kids. If I applied for my daughter now, she wouldn't get in. And you know, so they're not walking far, these children. And yet comprehensive, as soon as they leave primary school, they're suddenly told they can walk 3 miles through a busy town and cross in at Litchard Cross where there's no pedestrian crossings and things, and automatically that's fine. And these are 11-year-olds, and I think the problem comes from there.
It's, I got to say, BCBC used to have it down to 2 miles, which was great, and that was under what the recommendation
still, 2
was.
miles for a child who's 11, who's never walked through a town centre before, and is it then told, and then they're given, oh, well, actually, if you go through these streets, you're within this distance, but you send them through housing estates, through private roads, past people's houses. We don't know who lives in any of these houses. They should be sticking to the main roads. And then they're told, and I've had several meetings with the director, and I said, you need to be working with schools for your year 7s and year 8s and that, to get them built up ready, because because they've left primary school doesn't mean they're worldwidely, and they know all the dangers and they're out there. Because again, I go back to my background in law, and it's motor accidents was the main thing I started off with. And you look at a child, and apparently a child at age 12 cannot assess how fast a car is travelling to know if it's safe to cross a road. And yet we're telling our 11-year-olds it's safe for them to walk 3 miles through a town centre, down past a hospital where ambulances are speeding. They don't get it. Our children, I think, are not children. They're statistics on paper, and they need to come off the paper, and they need to be looked at as children again, as individuals, as young adults, and not statistics on paper.
See, this is what I'd like Sarah Murphy to come on for, because she is actually pushing the Welsh Government to release this report that was held back last election in the Welsh Assembly government indefinitely, which is, it doesn't say when it will be done, but she stood up a couple of times now in the Senate and said this report must be released because children are in danger and we shouldn't wait for children to be hurt before we do something. So release report. And I'd like her to be on there, and I have emailed her office and got nothing back, but I don't blame that because Labour don't talk to me
I
anyway.
I think you'll be waiting for eternity, to be honest. If I'm perfectly honest, I invited her to a meetings up in Coity where we had spates of animals being killed. We had a pregnant lady fall over. We had a dog walker got hit. I invited her. I invited all the Labour representatives, all the Conservatives, all the local councillors and the police. And Jamie Wallace turned up. Fair play. The David Lewis, Labour councillor for
Sam.
Yeah, he came, and I came. A number of residents came, and just probably a couple of hours before the meeting, all of the Labour MSs and the MPs, because it was south and north of the M4, so it was all of them, turned around and said, no, we're working on something, we're not coming. But they weren't intending to, because they will not work with anyone who's not Labour, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
I've
residents turned up, and it was ridiculous, because these residents came, and they need to realise that their old ways of dealing with things don't work. You've got to meet with residents. You've got to speak to people, not just turn up at a couple of doors of Labour supporters with your selfie stick and say, oh, look at what I'm doing. I'm getting great reception. Well, yeah, that's your front doorstep. Of course you're going to. Your mum's answered the door. You need to turn up and speak to real people. And when you're invited to meet with real people about real issues, you need to say yes. And then they could have trumped me and said they could have all turned up en masse and said, we'll deal with this. And then I'd have looked like a fool then, because they'd have taken it all on, and I couldn't come back on that. But when they turn up, they'd say, no, we're not coming out at all. They don't realise that's looking bad on them. They've got the power there. They can use that power for good. They can meet people. They can show people what they can do, but they won't. They just refuse to work with people.
I going back to you saying knocking on doors and with their selfie stick, and they always say everybody, every independence, every party, and everybody like that always said had a fantastic reception on the doorstep, speaking to people and that. I just want to turn around and say, nah, not been a good day today. People didn't want to talk to me. People criticise what we do, and
I don't knock doors, and that's my personal thing. I don't knock doors because I don't want to ruin someone's peace, because they don't want me on the front doorstep talking to them when they've got a nice sunny afternoon or an evening at home with the kids when they've been work all day. That's me.
Don't say that now.
I put.
Are you going door knocking soon? Is it?
Yeah, tomorrow night.
My husband knocks doors. I don't. We're different. But I went to town on Saturday to buy all my Mother's Day gifts, and I didn't take my selfie stick. I took my purse. So I had my purse in my hand, spending my money. And I think that made a better difference than having a photo of me in a market saying I'm here. Yeah. And I think people see that, and I think they need to realise that these selfie stick posts and these turning up with a photo saying I'm doing great isn't doing great. You need to be out there, like my husband's out there, digging up all the weeds down Heel West Place and that off outside the castle. You need to be doing that, because he doesn't take a photo. I don't take a photo of him doing that. People see him, and I think you need to be out there doing things that everyday people do, so they can see that. And if you're doing a good job, people will see it. You don't have to have your selfie showing you've done it. But Martin does knock doors. I don't, because I've already been out doing other stuff, and I think people would be sick of me. They see me in school. I'm chair of governors. I'm on the PTA councillor. If I turn up their doors, they say, "Not you again. Go away." Sort of thing, and shut the door.
Nobody knows me at the moment. That's what I'm thinking.
So whereas Martin, they don't have him rammed down their faces every day. He goes and does it, and he delivers things. He knocks doors and he does that. But for me, I think they would turn around and say, "Oh, we've seen you all day. Just go away."
I think that was like me 5 years ago. I hate that part, just knocking doors and just knocking somebody's door and talking to them. I feel like I'm intruding on their lives, and I don't want to do that.
People want you to.
If I see somebody out, they
say, "Oh, no one's knocked on my door," and they're quite, "Oh, I'm unhappy." And there's a lot of people who want to have that conversation, and they're waiting for people to turn up on their doors to have that conversation.
It's such a hard thing, because even those that I know that I knocked the door and spoke to them 5 years ago, and they went, "Oh, this is great," I still felt like I was intruding on their lives. I still felt like I was an inconvenience to them, regardless. It's the part I didn't like of it. It's the part I like talking to people. I just didn't like being intrusive on their lives and things
I
like
don't
that.
like delivering flyers either, and I feel, "Oh, what if someone comes out and says you're rubbish?" And I fear that, and I worry, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
Well, I didn't didn't mind delivering flyers. I have big
I thought you were going to
problems.
say that. I don't mind telling you you're rubbish.
I would never, ever, ever say that anymore, because I don't believe that. You're one of the councillors we have received on Coity Hire a report every month that you've been able to give one. Yet you've been on holidays before, obviously, and things like
I haven't
that.
been on holidays. I haven't been on holiday, and since, well, I went on holiday just after I was elected because it was my 40th, and I haven't been on holiday since.
Yeah, you went to New York for your 40th. No, I'm talking about
Yeah,
even when you've gone to
2017.
Saundersfoot, is it?
I take my laptop. We got Wi-Fi.
And you sent
Saundersfoot's got Wi-Fi. Come on now.
and you sent a report in to us. But
Yeah.
there's some, well, one councillor I won't mention who's never given us a report at all, despite saying,
Is that the same councillor with 13% attendance rate in the last 12 months?
Yes, the same councillor who, on my first ever council meeting, was there for the community council and said, I will be either here every month or sending a report. And that was the last. The same council we get constituents coming to our community council to help them with problems with BCBC because they can't get hold of their actual councillor, which...
They send me requests now.
Yes, I know. It's there are fantastic councillors out there who do a lot of things, but they don't go about advertising everything they do. And I feel great. But then there are councillors out there who shout a lot but do nothing. And then there are councillors who just don't do nothing at all.
But there are people who go out there and do an awful lot and don't shout about it, and people don't know what they do.
No,
I worry
know.
Sometimes that Facebook, you get people who comment all the time. Like if somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to host a Ukraine family," then instead of "Oh, well done, that's really kind of you, open up your house."
Or is there
people on there
anything
saying,
you
"Well, what
need?
about the homeless? What about the homeless people? What about the
I've
people
seen
from
that.
here? What about the people of there?" And it's
Terrific.
quick to criticise, and yet they're not doing anything. But they're quick to criticise and belittle people, and I think that's the way the world's going. It's just appalling.
I had experience of that this week, and it ended up with me being temporarily unable to post on a certain page. There was a comment about the trees, of the planting trees, and I've got to say, the message wasn't, oh look, they didn't plant that tree. The message was, look, they're pretending to plant a tree. They haven't done anything really, just posed for a photo.
Oh, that photo.
Yeah. And
there
a lot of criticism come, and there was one person in particular who criticised.
I couldn't guess who.
who criticised, and this person I've seen have a go and bully other people. And I apologise.
It might be the same person who I dealt with a query for a constituent in their ward because they were too busy in Cardiff being drunk and being sick on their shoes. It could be that person.
I can't remember.
Yeah, well, I haven't told anyone about that, but it's probably that person.
Do they have initials MW?
Oh, I'm not going to say anything.
Anyway, I've got to admit, and I apologise for my language here, ladies, but I was a dick to him. I really was, because I see he does it to everybody else. He bullies everybody who disagrees with him or disagrees with Labour. And I just did exactly the same to him this week. And he temporarily banned me from the page. When he criticises people from BCI who have banned people from their local pages and that for doing exactly what I did to this guy, because he does it to everybody. I see, not just BCI members. I've seen him do it to ordinary voters out there, ordinary people. He's not a councillor, I will say that. But I've seen him do it. So I thought, I'm in a mood. I want to cheer myself up. So I did. And I was
I know who you're talking about, yes.
I was horrible to him and things like that. And he couldn't take it when it was happening to him. Put me on a suspension for a couple of days, still suspended. And I messaged him. I said, you're fine. You can give it out to other people, but you can't take it back yourself. And when you criticise Bridgend County Independents for banning people from pages for doing exactly what I did, and then I've done it. Then you've just done it to me. I don't mind. It's not bothering me. But I just felt like I want a bit of fun and give this guy a bit of his own medicine, and he couldn't take it. But it was funny, and he
the fun of
suspended me.
politics. Sarah, you're probably thinking, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm already thinking that. I'm quite excited though.
Don't worry. Most of them you can ignore, but it's always the same people, isn't it? It's always the same few people who will criticise anything that BCI do, anything
You
that
get that because everyone's got their fans. I mean, if someone started attacking me now with my cake, if my lovely cake I made today, and I put a picture of it on Facebook,
I like
if
that
people
cake.
started saying that looks rubbish, and that, my mum would be the first one in there to say, "Oh, my daughter makes lovely cakes," and that's what you get. Your friends and your family all defend you. So
I've had some of
that's
them
all
Angus
that's
cakes,
happening.
and yes, they are lovely.
That's all
Yes,
that's
they are
happening.
lovely.
So you've just got to take it with, you'll have haters because they're friends with the people that you're going up against, and you've just got to ignore them because that's always going to be the case.
It's not
Some people
the hate.
some people take it a bit too far. Like last week, I was so cross with those absolute despicable examples of human beings who were threatening you and telling you to end it all. Which
When you did your cameo that stole the show.
Oh my gosh, I've never been so cross. Honestly,
I
just think there are people in this world who feel that they're big and hard, but they're only big and hard when they do it behind a fake profile and they hide it, and then anyone saying that to anyone just doesn't deserve the fresh air and the freedom and the everything that the rest of us have.
Yeah. I wasn't even hiding what I was doing. I was actually saying during the post what I was actually doing. I was deliberately being a thing to him, and it was just so funny. I don't mind people criticizing councillors or groups or whatever because they're supposed to get criticism.
Yeah, and we've been told that's our first training is you're a councillor, you've got to grow a thick skin. I don't like people saying they don't like me. I hate people saying I'm rubbish. It really upsets me. But that's life. I can't put up with it.
What I can't abide is the hypocritical stance.
No, I can't abide somebody telling somebody
like
to kill themselves. When somebody tells someone they should kill themselves, that is something else. That is something that is, and you think with somebody with that mentality, and we're talking about mental well-being of children and the younger generations, what chance have they got when there are people like that out there online and in the open?
I understand that, and you actually completely stole the show last week with that.
Sorry,
with that 5-minute rant, you came in and the Sullivan family cheering. Amy was cheering. I think you actually wrote something as well, Sarah. It was you stole the show, and it showed what the passion that's there, and I just don't.
But every person there. Sorry, I'm going on, and you just put a gag on me now. So you're all talk, but we are all somebody's child, somebody's parent, somebody's brother, somebody's sister. We're all people. And we forget sometimes, and people forget, we are all people. We might not think the same, we might not agree with things, but we're all people, and we deserve the same respect and the same. I don't agree with certain policies and certain things, but I'll agree with other things that people say from other parties. I've supported some Labour things, some Conservative things. I've not on other occasions. And I've disagreed with other independents, and I've supported others, and that's life. But we've got to remember we're all people, and we all deserve to be treated the same with the same respect, and allow our opinions to go out there. So it's my printer shutting down.
That's fine. So is this the first time you've actually stood for election, Sarah?
Yeah. Hopefully not the last.
Was it something that was your idea, or something somebody said to you, and then you got that little kernel in your brain, and it started to
Yeah,
grow? And
I wanted to get involved a bit more with politics. I used to talk to my dad about it, bless him, when he was alive, and it was just something that it interested me, but I didn't know enough. And then I was talking to, I'm standing with Dave Harrison
yeah,
as well. And I'm very good friends with his daughter from the dance centre, Gemma. And I was just chatting to him about it. And he was like, well, why don't you get involved? And he'd had a meeting with Ian Spiller. And then he had said to Ian, oh, we might have another 1 year. Sarah might join us. So one thing led to another. And next thing, oh my goodness, here I am. And I just go. So yeah, it's just a bit of a whirlwind. But yeah, like I said, I want to make a difference. I've lived in Kevin Glass practically all my life, brought up here. My children go to Brinturian Comprehensive, so I've known the area all my life. So it was something, my mum lives in the area, so it was like, well, I'd like to make it nice for her, because
yeah,
she's in her 60s, well, she was 70 actually this year, something nice for the kids as well. So if I can make it a better place for not just the children, but for the older generation as well, and, anyone, if I can just do something, it would be, it was something
I've
that I.
got one question for you. This is going back to when I was standing Kevin Glass in a by-election. I think it was the end of the summer 2017, because somebody had left. I campaigned on. There was a park at the bottom near the Spa and Westwood Centre. It's just over a bit on the green.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember there were jagged edges on these things and all that. Has anything been done with that in the last 5
Are you
years now?
talking about the big park?
Yeah, it was at, you come down, you've got Chip Shop and the shops there, and then go up towards Brinterian, just before you go to the hill, then you've got that green, and there was a park right at the end of the green towards Chelsea Avenue end of there.
Oh, that one. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and it was rotten. There were sharp edges. Has that been done at all?
If it's the one I'm thinking of, which is not far from me, it's not a bad park.
Oh, something has been done then, which is great, because it'd been like that for a long time, and people were saying that was something that needed to be done because it wasn't safe for children.
Yeah, because there's about 3 parks. You've got that big one where you've got either side where the river goes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got that one, and then you've got one off Barnes Avenue.
Yes, the one off, yeah.
As well.
Yeah. I'm just glad something was done. That was something that I said needed to be done, and I think that's what one of the good things I think Stuart Baldwin announced this year was the repair of play parks that are not being taken over by asset transfers. I think that's a fantastic thing, because I know we're going back off the teenagers, we're going back to the younger children, but they do need updating. Coity Hire have done loads throughout the area, and other community councils have done loads of asset transfers and refurbished play parks. And I think now the council are doing it as well and setting up a specific fund for it, for doing it, their play parks and not asset transferring, is fantastic. And I congratulate them on doing that.
As long as it's done in a timely manner.
Yes, as long as it's done in a timely manner and
been spoken about, but I haven't seen any action yet. So I would like to see some action as well, because personally, I think, and it's refreshing to listen to Sarah say about the reasons for standing, and it's similar to the reasons why I was standing, because there's been an awful lot, I think, in community councils of, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. Our only role is to empty the bins, and it's only to do this and that. And there's been so much old school thinking. It's nice to see people coming in with ideas of, well, actually, we could do this, and I want to be involved because I want to be involved in this and do this. And I think it's an ideal opportunity for community councils to take over all these parks. If BCBC haven't got the money, take over all these parks, have the funding that comes with it, and then turn them into exactly what the community wants. Because the only people who know what the community wants is those people living in the community. which is the people who are standing on that community council.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about capital asset transfers or community asset transfers, however they want to pronounce it, is they're not transferring the asset, they're transferring the liability. I think the asset should go to the community council.
Yeah,
not
they're
just
doing
holding
it on lease, aren't they?
Yeah, on lease for a 30
Whereas-
or 35-year lease.
Other local authorities are transferring it outright, and I think isn't that One Voice Wales have suggested as well that it should be an absolute transfer.
Yeah,
For it
One
to be
Voice
an
Wales.
asset, for it to be an asset transfer, it should be an
Yeah.
absolute transfer.
Yeah, because as One Voice Wales put it, it's only a liability transfer, because that's all they're doing is making the community council liable for the repairs and that, and they don't have any holding over the park. They don't own the ground on that, and in 30 odd years, I'd expect 2 or 3 times they've refurbished that park in 30 odd years, the council could take it all back. Okay, they give a peppercorn rent, which is very, very little every year on each asset, but transfer the whole asset, give it to the community council, keep it in the community.
Like Coity have put the field in trust so that it can be built on. Do that. Put them all in trust so they cannot be turned into houses. They have to, or put a covenant on there that they have to be for a certain.
But the other thing I don't is we had this recently, and Martin could tell. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Heelmeyer. We wanted to refurbish the play park there, and we applied for match funding for BCBC.
That's the one. That's the park. I grew up on Penlan in Litchard. I went to Litchard Primary, and it was, you could access it off Penlan or Heelmeyer, and that's my park I grew up in. That's where I used to hang from the handlebars, try and swing over the top of the swing, everything. That was my park. So when he said we're going to refurbish that, I thought, brilliant. That's my everything I wanted in life has been achieved now. my childhood park is being done.
So we got the match funding under the asset funding, capital asset. I can't remember what it's called. It's capital funding anyway.
Yeah.
It's not asset. It wasn't asset transfer. We were just refurbishing it.
Because there was a dispute over ownership of who actually owned that. And
park. BCBC said we couldn't do it as a council, and it's going to cost more if they do it. So can we pay them the money we were going to, and possibly a bit more, because it was going to cost more for them to do it than it would have us doing it.
Yeah,
which is a big problem. Why is it costing more for the county council to do it when we can get it done much cheaper?
Because you can just go out to anyone and get quotes, whereas BCBC have to go to their providers, their list of approved contractors.
But surely there should be a better system in place for things like play parks. The cost of it shouldn't be. A community council shouldn't be able to get it done cheaper than what the county council can.
But that's
for exact same equipment.
That's the same for everything. If you look at a school, and schools have got their energy bills, they can't go out to an energy provider and get their best deal. BCBC have got a deal across all schools, and it's extortionate the amount they pay. My God, the amount they pay on their bills, and yet that's fixed by BCBC with a deal they've done with some provider, and they're locked into that for God knows how many years. They can't go each year and try and get a better deal, and schools can't, and schools are being forced to pay that budget. And for example, they've just done a deal now with water rates, and BCBC are paying the water rates, and schools have gone up £1,500 a year because of the deal, and they've split it across the schools. And you just think,
well,
there's so much wastage when you want schools to run certain things, like, you're responsible if somebody gets knocked over on your site or is injured. That's your responsibility. Go away. You can have that one. Or if something falls off the roof or anything, that's yours again. But we will force you to pay more for your energy bills and that, and we'll control that side of things.
I I don't understand, and nobody answered my question that I posed a few months back after Suffolk Council cancelled a recent contract they did with an energy company because they had ties to, because they were mostly owned by Russian. And I asked, does BCBC have any contracts like that with companies that have connections to Russia? Nobody answered, but
I don't
there
think
we
they're
go.
energy. I can't remember who provides the energy, but it wasn't a Russian company. It was a British company with the energy. That's definite, but I can't remember who.
And water rates, you can't really go around shopping for deals anyway because there's only one provider. It's the one that can't. You
Yeah,
can't go to different energy companies.
But my water bill has gone up £1 this year. So how could a school go up £1,500?
I honestly don't know. It's beyond me.
Yeah, so I think personally that it's not based on how much a school is using anymore. It's across, everyone's being dished out, well, split it between you all. So some schools have got less and others have got more.
Why not put water meter in? Because it's going to come to a point when they're going to have to anyway, because they are moving more and more towards.
But it's just, schools now. Coity opened in 2015. They have 4 changing rooms there for the fantastic sports facility for the community. Those changing rooms have never been used. And yet every week they've got to run tests on those showers for Legionnaire's disease. They haven't been used. In 7 years, they haven't been used. How much money's been spent there?
So can I ask why they've got to run tests for Legionnaire's disease?
Because you have to. Because legally you have to if you've got open change rooms that are open and in use and they've got showers. They've got to run the tests.
Yeah, but you just said in use.
Yeah, but they could be. They could be in use. They could be hired tomorrow. They've never been used. They can't fit the children in the school because there's no space, but they've got 4 changing rooms that are bigger than each changing room is bigger than a classroom, and they've never been
used.
It's for the cricket pitch. It's for the cricket square that a cricket club was going to have. That's where they've got the massive green area. But the cricket square didn't want it because there's no community centre anymore, and cricket likes afternoon tea. So part of playing cricket is having an afternoon tea, but there's no community centre because they checked all the money from the community centre into the school and said, well, the community can use this room. But to hire a normal BC community centre, I think it's £10 an hour or £10 every 2 hours. But to hire that one, it's £100 for 2 hours.
The room.
You nearly choked on what you were eating. I know it's silly.
The cricket square is gone now, so we've got these blinking huge changing rooms for these cricketers who won't go there because they've got a community centre for their afternoon tea.
And a community room that won't be used because people aren't paying that much.
It's being used as a staff room for school at the moment, and the head teacher is desperately trying to get the community into it, but he, outside of school, can't. He has to charge what it will cost him. Otherwise, the school are paying, and it's not fair for the school to pay.
No, it's
BCBC
not
should
fair.
be paying that because they've pinched the money, and not the school. They shouldn't be paying for it, but the school would have to lose all that money because they'd send somebody in to open it up, shut it down, and then all of the costs and that.
I think there's just no forward thinking. There's no looking out for the pitfalls in what could happen and doing it correctly. No joined up thinking we'll put this in, then we'll sort out after how we're going to do and what we're going to do. There's just no forward planning.
Oh, it's taking the money and thinking we'll use this money here without thinking of the consequences. And the Section 106 money is there for the benefit of the community, but it's taking that money to deal with your own internal budgets and not thinking about what's best for the community.
Am I right in thinking some of that 106 money that was put by Parkdale was used at the bottom of the road near Singletons?
No, that's Tremacasteth and Gareth-y-Casteth.
Oh, that was Tremacasteth and Gareth-y-Casteth.
Yeah, it was the Gareth-y-Casteth Section 106. There's money there for the road layouts and to make what everyone thought the junction out of Gerrard the Castell onto Heel Simonstone safer because it's a really awful junction. But
Yeah.
no, because it says Heel Simonstone, they took that money and they used it towards B&Q because it's the same street name. So
it's well, we've got roughly 15 minutes. Is there anything either of you would like to talk about, something that's on your mind, something that's really important to you now we can start talking about?
Well, the other thing is the parking up in our football club. You might know.
Oh, yes, by the old Brintarian Fields, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just over the other side of the road, isn't it?
that
Yeah.
Pen and Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when they've got a game. Like I live a couple of streets down, so they park right at the top in the street. And
Yeah.
if you think there's a play park across the road, so kids will have to cross the road to get to the play park.
Yeah.
You've got cars double parked all the way up, going off either street. That's one of my bugbears. Have no idea what I can do about it yet.
But I thought when they had their planning permission granted, they had to have more parking spaces in there as well. And when I went in there last week, because my son plays for Barry Town and they were playing there against Pen and Bond, there's only a little bit. They've got a little gravel area at the bottom, and that's the only additional spaces. And for them to make it when they had the extension for the second tier, you know, the second stand, there's not many spaces gone in there. When they've got the grass pitch by the side, and then they've got all that grass down the end. That's just to a waste. And I don't understand how they've got such little parking when they've got capacity for so many spectators.
Match days is appalling.
Yeah.
Trying to even drive through, let alone, like I said, if you've got it's right on the side of a play park. You've got a play park there.
And there's no crossing points there. There's no
none at all.
pelican crossing or pedestrian crossing.
Well, that's one for Sarah Murphy then, because she was down there the other day. I saw a photo of her in one of the tents watching one of the football matches. So maybe ask her if she can sort it.
I don't know what she's going to say. She's going to turn around and say, well, it's a BCBC issue. So then who's the councillor up there? Is it
But BCBC won't do anything. BCBC won't do anything unless somebody dies. And when I raised the issue because a gentleman died on Litchard Hill, and I said about the safety, and they were expecting 11-year-olds to cross there and walk to Brinteg School because of the pandemic. And when I put in my submission, it was just over a year after the man died. Said, well, it's over a year now, so we don't take those stats into account.
The thing is, how cruel is it to wait till somebody dies when you can already see there's a problem?
But not just wait for someone to die, then it's got to be within a year of someone dying.
I know. It's like there's no safe crossing point between MacArthur Glen and
that's horrendous. And
and the lights at Litchard Cross. The nearest safe crossing point is down by the hospital.
Not if you're coming from Park Downwyn or somewhere, because there's no safe crossing point across that part of Litchard Cross to get down to that crossing to go back up.
No, but that's what I'm saying. There's no safe crossing point before you get to the hospital.
No.
There's nothing safe. There's no pedestrian crossing, pelican crossing, or toucan crossing. I'm not sure what that is. I can't remember.
You're okay if you're that end of the road, but if you live up the top, you've got to go all the way back down across a non-safe crossing point to find a safe crossing point to go back up. And I used to live when I grew up in Penlan in Litchard and used to catch the bus into town. We used to run across Litchard Hill because the brow of the hill is so deceiving, you can't see anything. And we'd run for our lives and hope we'd get on the bus and not be hit. Oh, it's terrifying. So dangerous. And when they say, it's okay for an 11-year-old to cross there.
It's not. It's like I don't live far from the shop where I am. And I've got a zebra crossing from this side to that side. But I won't let Jacob walk up to the shop. It's only 5 minutes that way. I don't like him going on his own. He wants to go on his own, and I trust him, and he's got sense. But it's not always about him. It's the drivers on the road as well. And I don't know if you've been up to Cummer and seen that zebra crossing. It's quite a blind.
Yeah, I've driven up a few times.
Yeah, it's quite on a blind area where that crossing.
Oh, it's
is.
horrible because you've got cars parked down the roads, and you've got to. It's narrow roads. Then you've got to drive through.
Yeah. But I won't be there for long. I'll be in Bridgend hopefully in May, after May 15th.
Great.
So
we need you in the pub quiz. We need your brain.
It's been a long time since I've been to the pub quiz.
And me. I'm on football run now.
Well, you do football on Tuesday now, is it?
Yeah, football in Caerphilly till 9 o'clock.
That's a shame because it used to be on a Thursday, the quiz, didn't it? Now it's on Tuesday.
And Martin goes, but I'm doing football. So you're right, go with Martin.
Right, we've got
my brain isn't as clever as his, so he gets the pub quiz, and I'm really good at the picture ones.
Yeah. So that's it. So you're going out delivering leaflets tomorrow, Sarah? With
I am. Yeah, me and Dave. Well, we're not delivering. We're going door knocking just to see if people have had our. Yeah, if they've had our leaflets with Dave.
Hopefully, we'll see a report on Facebook on that and how it goes and how you.
My selfie stick.
Look, good reception on doorstep. That is really not my mother by there. But yeah, and you didn't go out. Is Martin and Alan going around knocking doors a lot?
Yes, no, they will be. Yes, they've been out traipsing. They do because like I said, because I'm not chair of governors, I'm also on the PTA and that, whereas they aren't. People see me anyway. And I do feel sometimes when you're on so many things, people get enough of you. They just say, go away. You're stalking me. So no. If people want me to go, I'll go. And I've said, I'll happily host something and they can come and ask me questions. But I do worry. And that's why I like when I joined the PTA, so I don't want a position in the PTA in that, because I don't want me to be there.
Yeah.
Attached to everything. I just come and help and things.
Well, I might be down at yours tomorrow because I've got to apparently sign something.
All right.
It is. There's still work I'd like to do on Coity. There's so much and it's great. And I've been speaking to Martin and other people, and I am going to be standing. Martin's sorting out the forms for me, and I'm maybe coming down tomorrow to sign them. So I may pop up in the evening and walk around with you and Dave, Sarah, if I'm allowed to, just to get your experience. And you talk about, I'm not going to film it, just talk about your experience, and we can maybe do something later on in the selection cycle, what you think about it. But I'm happy to deliver leaflets as well and put them through the door for you. So I'll find out from Martin tomorrow. He'll let me know. He said he'll let me know what time.
He's in the school in the morning. Poor children. He's got 2 hours of talking about bridges to them for STEM week. Oh, I know.
Yeah, well, it's good. Yeah, so I'm going to be down there at some point, maybe tomorrow. It's all on Martin Wennington. So I am standing for Litchard again. I can stand for people saying, "Oh, you live in Cummer. That's more than 2.5 miles away." Yes, it is, but there is a provision that if you've worked in the area and it's your main job for a year, which I'm unemployed, it's going to be my main job. I've been a counsellor there for the last 5 years.
I think Gary Ennis has already approved, hasn't he, everything? Martin's taking it all through him. So
to who?
Gary Ennis, who's in BCBC, he's already looked at everything and yes, that's fine.
Yeah, so I've got to stand for. So I am standing because there is work I still want to do. The Safe Routes project that was started when I first got there. The second meeting. There's so much on it. The pavement on Heel Spencer, which you're positive about and Martin's not. That is a big thing that
Oh,
We
it
tried
will
for 5 years.
happen. I've got every faith in it. If you haven't got faith that something will happen, then what's the point?
No, I am. It's not that I don't have faith.
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
know
saying
I've got to keep
Martin's
fighting.
Martin's skeptical of the information we've been given, and I'm thinking, no, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, but I can see from Martin's point of view, we have been
Yeah.
burned in the past.
Oh, we
Not
have,
just one.
yes.
Yeah. So, and
No, but there's
proof
other
is,
areas that aren't. Yeah.
yeah, proof is in the
top
pudding.
of the
as they
top of
say.
Lichard, that, like you said, there's nothing, no provision in the top of Lichard Hill where that man was killed. There's nothing in
No.
there. That needs absolute.
And the ongoing saga of the bollards, which we promised over a year ago now to pay for at the community council, and BCBC just haven't done anything for the permissions for us to do it.
Yeah,
and it's taken a year. We said we'll pay for it,
and somebody will be killed or seriously hurt unless they put 2 bollards in. And I priced them; they were £100 each.
And we said, yeah, fine, we'll pay for that. We'll cover the cost. We'll cover the installation.
You cover the 10 times the cost that BCBC will have to pay.
And all we're waiting for is permission from BCBC to say, yes, go ahead, do it. And we've been waiting at over a year now. Bless Richard Young, he's tried and he can't get anywhere. And it's...
I don't know. I think he forgot to put it in, actually. I think he said he forgot to do it.
Yeah, it's like a park bench or a planter. You need
because it's so
permission.
close to the road. You need permission from highways to put it in because it's on the highway.
I thought if it's easier to get permission for a bench or a planter, get that, because just shove that right in the middle.
Yeah.
If not, I'll go plant a tree there myself. I'll get my spade.
I'll just stand there myself.
Yeah, it's fun. There's so much work to do, and I'm worried about the asset transfers of the 2 playing fields, Lichard and Pendray.
Park. You need to be involved in that to try and get progress on that because that's faltered, isn't it?
Yeah, we're worried that we don't have the proper information, and I'm worried that a new council with more favourable understanding of BCBC may push it through and lumber the council with what is effectively a large liability without knowing all the figures. We can't make a decision until we know how much it costs to maintain both pitches, how much they receive from the clubs that use both pitches, and how much the community centre makes and how much it loses. Yeah, we can't make that, and they want us to.
You only hand something back if you're not making money, and it was handed back.
Yeah,
the community council, the community centre. So
it wasn't just handed back; they just dumped the keys and expected us to take over the community council to take over, and that it was not even.
But I know sports clubs. I've had meetings with sports clubs who use it, and they're up in arms because they're all paying different figures.
Yeah,
one is paying half of what another club is paying.
It's silly, and I don't want the people of Coity to be lumbered with something that's going to just drain resources. Because I think BCBC won't take it back once it's off the books.
No, it'll just be shut.
It'll be shut. I think it should be kept open. I think it needs to.
Be a youth club.
Yeah, there we go.
It could be a youth club, but I don't think it's quite big enough at the moment, is it really?
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's got back rooms and everything. Yeah.
I know it's got a kitchen. I think we could use Lichard as
I think Sarah just volunteered.
She volunteered.
Executive
decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm hoping Martin's watching. If not Martin, we're going to look at setting up a youth club.
Dishes, to be honest.
I'm hoping to do one in Westwood. Not Westwood, Fronterian Community Centre.
Yeah.
Opposite the football club. See?
If you want to set up a youth club, she'll probably hate me for saying this. The best person to get in contact is with my sister. She used to be a manager for years in the youth service in Bridgend. She'll know everything. If not, Rebecca Stone's my niece. Part of
I told her.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
So she went to
And Shelley.
and Shelley and Adam.
I didn't
So
say Dada.
which school was that?
And
Oh, I
Iselda.
can't.
Oh, you're an Iselda because I used to go there before then. No,
Yeah,
Adam didn't go there.
20 years ago
Oh,
it started. That's show
yeah,
my age.
I left long before then. Becky, who's Clone Utopia,
Clone Utopia.
who
Yeah.
played at Jam in the Castle. So
Yeah.
see, we've got all this connection going on.
Yeah.
Yes, Rebecca Stones is another one who she would be good to help you. Very good. She'll know where you've got to go. She's got her degree in all that, so she'll know what you have to if that's something you're looking at. So there we go. So we're setting up youth systems throughout the borough then.
Yeah. That's what they need. They desperately need it.
Yeah, I think we need to do it back, even if it's privately funded, because I think the only one large one was KPC in Kenvick Hill that was privately funded from donations.
Big boys.
Abbey Kenvick Boys, but I think Kenvick Hill one was much larger, and they got funding from Sony when it was thing. I don't know whether they still do. I don't know whether it's still there, to be honest. But I think that's the only way we're going to go now is private funding and looking at these large companies that are still here, whatever companies they are, whether it's get them to sponsor the youth clubs, work with that, and that's the only way to do. Because I can't see BCBC doing it. I really can't. They could only freeze They would only freeze council tax this year with an extra £19.6 million in their pocket that they weren't expecting, and they only froze council tax when 1% of council tax is 875,000.
But they've got £500,000 unallocated in their budget.
Yeah, £500,000.
And like I said, if you don't support the youth now, you'll have to pay for it all in the future.
I think this is the most important time. Now we're coming out of the pandemic. It should have happened during the pandemic, but it made things were much harder because of getting kids to places because they weren't allowed to socially interact. Now we're out of that. I think it's today the laws end, isn't it? I think it's today all the laws end. Let's get the help there for them.
Yeah, but they've got the reserves as well, and they say the reserves are there for a rainy day. Well, it's been pouring for the last 2 years.
And what was it? £92 million reserves they had, which was more than they were supposed to, according to the auditor.
We should be doing more for mental health and more to support the elderly who have been stuck at home with no contact. So many people with no contact with anyone, and the youngsters. We need to sort it all out because it will pay dividends in the end if we are there for these individuals now, because it will save us money in the future.
Yeah, it will save money in the future, both through the NHS, through social services, antisocial behaviour, police services, because we don't know what the outcome of somebody suffering from depression will be, how they will deal with it, because everybody deals with it in a different way.
More importantly, it gives everyone a better life now.
Yeah, and a build for the future. Not just the generation that has suffered through pandemic, but future generations that come down the line. They still need help and need to be occupied and do things and have that social interaction with other children their own age, their own peers, and that. And it needs to come back, and it really needs to come. Bridgend, and Bridgend had one of the best youth services in the country. It won so many awards for the youth service. There were some fantastic youth workers there who selflessly gave a lot, and some of them, not all of them were paid, and there were a lot of volunteers who did that, who selflessly gave their time to help kids just have fun, be able to go somewhere, just have a listening ear, if that's all it was.
And there's going to be so many people out there now who will be sat there thinking, and then it's so refreshing to have people like you, Sarah, come along and say, well, I'm
Yeah.
standing because I can see what you need, and I'm going to stand up there and do something about it. And they must all be thinking now, because they've forgotten.
Yeah.
And
I,
you know, in all honesty, if you look at different community councils and that, they are the forgotten voice. We're looking at things like the bins, we're looking at the parks and that, but they are the forgotten voice with so many areas. And so it's so lovely to hear someone saying, well, I'm standing because of this.
I will admit, both me and Amanda, we've got kids, but we only think so far. And then you've come along and say, and I've known the youth service been gone for a while, and I've commented so long, and you say, we need to do this, we need better provision, we need this, and it's brilliant. And personally, I hadn't pushed for anything like that. I hadn't even looked at anything like that. And
I hadn't even thought of it.
no,
Looked or pushed.
You wake somebody up. You wake
Yeah.
us
Because I
up.
deal with it day in, day out.
Yeah,
It's
because you
exhausting.
do. In school,
Just
you
seeing it day
see
in,
the
day out.
effects in school. We see it at home when kids can be a bit more closed off to us, hide in their rooms and that. With you, they're going to be there because you're teaching them. You're looking at them.
But a teacher's no longer just a teacher. A teacher is now having to be a social worker, a counsellor, and everything else over and above what they're one, paid to do, and two, qualified to do. And it's a whole different job. And it is it's ridiculous what is being put on teaching staff as well. It's crazy because you've got to be there teaching, and yet you've still got, if you've got a safeguarding incident, that can't be left. That's got to be dealt with on top of your teaching if you're in class all day and that. And I think, you know, we need to look at the children. We also need to look at our teaching staff because we are burning them out, and we're burning them out very quickly as well.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I had some fantastic teachers when I was in Anna Saldra, Rob Morgan, David Lewis history. Favorite teacher, Mr. Lewis in history, just made it so much fun for me. He just made it so entertaining to listen to it. It wasn't monotone. It was, he put on silly voices. He'd get great, and I that's probably where I get my thing for history from. So I think teachers are underrated, and teachers are the best resources schools have.
But I don't think the general public sees what teachers these days are now required to do with children and how important they are in children's well-being and everything outside of teaching and teaching them lessons as well. And I think we need to sit up and realise and do something about it, because I think the system is breaking soon because of how much they do. We clapped at the doorsteps for all the key workers, for the NHS, for those who are in teaching in the hubs and everything. And then as soon as we're coming out of a pandemic, it's as if you've got, Johnny didn't get his new book this week. I'm putting a formal complaint in. So-and-so didn't get this. So-and-so didn't do that. And people forget what these individuals have been through.
The compassion's gone.
And I can't fault the teaching that my children had during lockdown. I can fault me as a parent stressing, going, I can't deal with this, and 3 children homeschooling and having my breakdowns with, oh my gosh, I've got A-level maths and yet I can't do this and that. And it is, and the pressure on families. But they just was like, well, that's a teacher's job. They got to do this, they got to do that. But what they were also bringing up their families and doing all of that and caring for everyone else that they had to care for. And yet doing all of this, online sessions, marking, and then dealing with have we got exams, haven't we? Are we swapping this week? Are we doing it this week? What are we waiting for? How are we dealing with it? Are we going back to school next week? Oh, I don't know. Welsh Government haven't told us. They'll tell us on Friday at 3:00. So we'll know if we're teaching on Monday, last minute. And people don't see that. And I see it because I'm a governor and I'm chairing government. So I see, but the general public do not see what has been required of teaching staff and this significant increase in safeguarding, in well-being issues, and how teaching staff are now having to deal with so much more than just teaching. and they
Yeah.
have to be counsellors, they have to be social workers, they have to be this, that, and the other. But there is only so much time in the day. The same way as we say, our nursing staff now and our doctors in the hospitals particularly are dealing with everyone who turns up at an A&E because they can't get a GP's appointment, and they're overworked and they're overstressed. And I think that, but you know, the doctors and nurses in the hospitals are doing it for the benefit of their patients, to make sure their patients are safe, and the teaching staff are doing it to make sure the children are safe. But I think they all need more support, and I don't think people realise how much they are doing and how much support is needed.
And just think how much pressure would come off these services, like teachers, like NHS, like the police, if you just had something it's there for children. It would take so much pressure off. It's not going to take all the pressure off, and not every child's going to be helped, but you don't always have these large groups hanging around antisocial behaviour like at the bowling green that's apparently just suddenly come up. But I've known about antisocial behaviour there.
That's been going on for years.
For years, and suddenly it's an issue that they're solving.
But they skate in there. Where else can they skate down there? There's nowhere else for these poor kids.
No.
They'll just move on to another car park. Because there's nowhere for them to go.
They need to build skate parks.
Yeah, they've got one in Brackland that's broken. It's broken and it's not very good. And I said, "Oh, are you going to update that? There's loads of funding. I've spoken to so and so and so and so and so and so who's throwing funding. Oh yeah, maybe we'll look at that." But no, you need to.
There's one in Porthcawl. The only problem with skate parks, as we found in Coity when we had two lads ask about skate park, is the liability insurance that whoever puts it in has afterwards. It's very Ashmore's is great. It's got the controlled environment and it's privately funded. Maybe if BCBC work with Ashmore's to get these and have satellite areas, play parks that they can control.
But even basketball courts or things like that, something for older children, because they don't want to go in a little kiddie swing or read outside. They're doing it because there's nothing else for them to do. No,
and most places like a 4G pitch in, say, Coity or the one in
you've got to pay £100 an hour.
You've got to pay to use them, and kids don't have that sort of money. You need things for kids specifically. Okay, charge adults, but £100 for an hour for use of a 4G pitch is silly. If it's at night, I can understand you've got electric and things like that, but if it's daylight, because it can be up to about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night during summer, prices should adjust. But kids can't afford that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Because I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Amanda, can you hear me? I did hear a beep. I wondered what
Mine's
it was.
gone silent, my end.
Well, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Have you turned your volume off? We lost it. Yeah. Anyway, it's refreshing that you've highlighted the kids, because I think even me and Amanda are both with kids, and that we missed that, and it's good to see people have different opinions and say this is quite important. Let's do it. But I think community councils can start getting involved more with creating youth clubs, but BCBC need to put their hand in their pockets to get this done. They've got reserves of, I think it was 92 million. Okay, keeping it for rainy day, it's absolutely heaving it down at the moment with kids, especially the teenagers. I won't call them young adults, the teenagers and things like that. So it's good. I think work with community councils, work with groups, but BCBC need to put their hand in the pocket, find private funding as well from companies willing to sponsor different youth clubs and things like that.
They used to have them in the comprehensive, so I don't know why.
Yeah, in Brintarian comprehensive, in Anasauda one, they used to have a separate building until they built the new school and knocked that all down.
Well, they have got one in CCYD.
Have they?
For the council run it. I think it's 1 or 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
But
I remember that used to be 5 nights a week. The
Yeah.
one in Soldier. I loved that place, but yeah, I think there needs to be more. And I'm glad you came on tonight to bring that up and put that forward. And I think that's something councillors need to work out, not just independents, but party
Everyone.
councillors as well, because it affects everybody in every area. It's not just single to one area. It's not just Kevin Glass that's suffering from this. It's every area. Porthcawl, Coity, Brackler, Pencoed. It's something that affects every area, and councils should work together to find a solution.
Definitely.
So I think we're going to leave it there, seeing as it's 2 hours 15, and Amanda pretended she didn't hear us anymore so she could get away.
No worries.
And it's been lovely to meet you, and good luck in the election. I may be up that way tomorrow, so I'll give you a message if you tell me what time you're going out tomorrow.
Lovely.
And
Okay.
I'll walk around with you both, just generally chat and see how things go. I'm not going to do a video or photographs and that. It's not selfie, it's just generally chatting. And
No
maybe
worries.
both get you both on again sometime soon with some of the other councillors of like Ian Standing, and there's a few others I can't remember names. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you, Sarah. I'm going to say thank you to everybody who stayed and watched tonight. Have a good day and have a good rest of Mother's Day for the mothers of you out there. Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye.